How's it going? Today I'm going to be showing you how to implement dark mode in your React application. So the goal of this tutorial is to take us from a UI that looks like this to one that has a dark mode toggler that you can toggle on and off. Along with the toggler that toggles all the background colors, we're also, and the like text colors and everything, we're also modifying the component library to also be responsive to the toggling. So for example, if I come down to these cards, you can see that everything within those toggle. Same thing goes for the inputs. So yeah, that's the overall goal of this tutorial. It's technically meant to be a continuation of my last video, but if you already know the basics of React and Tailwind, then you're more than welcome to just grab the starter code. You can find it here, and this will get you up to speed with the contents of the last tutorial, and you'll be able to follow along with this one. So once you have VS Code open and at your repository, go ahead and open up your integrated terminal and make sure that you get your application running. So if you hit Control tilde, that'll open up your terminal. I'm just going to hit Control C to end this. And yeah, so if you don't have, if this is your first time doing this and you don't have your node modules already installed, then just run npm I, and that will automatically install, update all your packages. And then once all your packages are installed, just hit npm run dev to get your server up and running. So my server is running at localhost 5173. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control tilde again to hide my terminal. And now we're ready to write some code. So what we're trying to do right now, since we're using Tailwind, we want to leverage the Tailwind dark mode configuration. So in your Tailwind config, specifically in your return or in your exported config object, you want to just add a property called dark mode, and this property is going to be set to an array that has a string where you would say class, and then make sure you add a comma over here, since if you're adding it to the middle of the array like I just did. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Now we have dark mode, or now we have Tailwind configured to use dark mode, but nothing changed. And that's for 2 or 3 reasons, depending on what you count. The first one is we're not actually using any classes that are set to use dark mode. So the way you would do that is I just went to the navbar.tsx. It's under source, components, and site. So in the header, let's say I come over here and I change the background to black. Well, it's going to scream at me. It's actually dark, dark background black. So what I'm saying is whenever dark mode is enabled, instead of using background white, we're going to use background black. So I save, but nothing happened. And the reason nothing happened is because I don't have anything telling, I don't have anything telling Tailwind yo, use dark mode, right? So to do that, I'm just going to quickly head to the element inspector. To do that, you would actually have to modify the HTML tag or the root tag to have a class of dark. And now you'll see that the header changes to black. If I say dark is background blue 500 and I save, it changes to blue 500. Now, when I remove dark, you'll see it goes back to the light mode version, which is defined here, background white. So yeah, now you might be asking, well, how the heck are we going to change that HTML tag programmatically? Specifically, how are we going to change it when we click a button? But we'll get to that. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to create a what's called a hook, a React hook, and we're going to use this React hook in our component to query whether or not dark mode is available or is set in the user's browser settings. Then we want to check whether or not, if the user has visited us before, Well, like let's say someone's already visited your site in the past and they decided they like their light mode more than your dark mode, and they set it to light mode. Well, we want it so that the next time the user comes and visits, that the site uses that setting that the user set, right? Which is going to be stored in the local storage, the browser's local storage, which you can. I'm not going to show y'all what's in my local storage because I feel like I'll probably open a backdoor for myself. So I'm not going to do that. But if you want to see what's in your local storage, you can head to application, and then inside of there, you can check your local storage, which is where this variable will be set. So we need to have a function that can check both the user's settings and the user's local storage to see what they've configured it as. And then based on that, when the site first loads, that's what we'll use to determine whether or not it should be dark mode or not. And then we also want this function to return a changer function. So we want another function that lets us update the dark mode to light mode and vice versa on demand. So we're going to do both of those with this React hook. So let's go ahead and start defining this thing. Tell you what, I'm actually not going to define it in Navbar because that's a little tacky. Instead, under the site folder, I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to name the file after the function, which is useTheme.ts. So this one's just a normal TypeScript file because we're not actually writing any JSX. It's just pure functionality. And inside of this function, let's go ahead and write an arrow function. So I'm going to do an fn. Oh, well, that was silly of me. I don't know why I thought that would work. I wonder if there's a snippet for hooks. RFC, React arrow function component. Good enough. Okay, so I'll keep React actually. And inside of here, we're not going to be returning. So this is what happens if you name your file TS instead of TSX, just for learning purposes. I'm going to rename this to TSX. And you'll see that error goes away because now this file will accept JSX. But we don't want JSX, we just want normal TypeScript. So we'll rename that to TS. And I'm going to remove this return. Well, actually, we are going to return something from this hook. This hook is going to return two things. It's going to return a variable, Boolean, is dark mode. This is just going to be the setting Boolean, or the state value of like whether dark mode or not is enabled. And we're going to return a function that lets us change is dark mode from true or false. And this is going to be called toggle dark mode. All right. Now, of course, we're getting errors because neither of these things are defined. So let's go ahead and remedy that. So is dark mode is going to be a state variable. So we're actually going to use the React useState hook to both define this state value and define the state value setter. And it's going to look like this. So we'll say const. This is going to be a tuple. The first value is dark mode. The second one is set is dark mode. So we are currently defining the state value and the state value setter. So this is going to be what actually holds the value. And this is going to be the function that lets us change this value. Now, we actually have to run the hook that gives us these state values. And it's going to look like this. We're going to do react.useState. So we're essentially running the useState function by passing in an initializer. We'll just start with false since this is a Boolean. And to define the type of a function, you would do something like this. So this is a useState hook where the state is of type Boolean, and we're going to initialize the state with false. If I don't provide anything, it'll actually initialize it as null, but we'll say for now that this is false. So you'll see now is dark mode is of type Boolean because of this type. And if we were to actually log is dark mode right now, which it's not really going to do anything because we're not using this function yet, it will return false. And actually, I can go ahead and do that right now. So let's say I comment this out and I'll just say return is dark mode. Well, I'll put this inside of a parenthesis, curly brace. I can't talk today. And we'll hit save. And now inside my navbar, I am going to import this hook. So we'll say import, open braces, use theme from useTheme. Inside of here, to actually get that is dark mode value, I have to destructure it. Well, I don't have to, but I choose to. So destructuring is where you basically grab the value of a property instead of like grabbing the whole thing and then saying like use theme dot is dark mode. You would just do, or it's more like this. Instead of like accessing as dark mode this way, what we're doing is we're saying const is dark mode, so it grabs is dark mode from the object that's returned by use theme like so. And now we'll just log is dark mode. We'll save. And in my browser, I'm gonna hit Control-Shift-I so that I can actually see the console log output. And there you go. So is dark mode is false. I'm gonna head back to my code and just to show you that I'm not crazy, we're gonna say this is true. Save. Hello. Refresh. There we go. Shows up as true. And if we say this is potato, we save, then this will show up as potato, which is screaming errors because this is actually not Boolean. But if we change this to string, then it is. Or if we decided we were absolutely getting brazy with it and we did Boolean string for some godforsaken reason, then we don't have any more errors. But we don't want it to be potato. We want it to be string, and we want to initialize it as false. So there you go. By the way, in case you're wondering why it's not updating when I save, even though I have hot module reloading, it's because I don't think hooks are hot module reloadable. So you do have to refresh whenever you save a hook. So just FYI. Now, let's go ahead and finish up this component. Or this hook, I should say. So we initialized our state value. And now we need to actually, well, how should I do this? Yeah, let's go ahead and start using a useEffect hook. So useEffect basically, it's used to perform side effects in functional components. So this won't work in class components, React class components, but thankfully no one uses those anymore, I think. So you won't have to worry about that. Everything that you've used up till now in this tutorial and the last tutorial has all been functional components, so don't even worry about it. Now, it's used to perform side effects, and what that means is, I guess the best way for me to explain it is like they're operations that can grab things that are outside of the scope of the current React component that you're in. So, for example, if I was in Navbar and I wanted to access data from a third-party REST API, right? Or even a first part, like even my REST API. That data is outside of my component. So I need to actually like use a use effect or a side effect to grab that data in order to provide it to my component. So in a similar way, since we're trying to get a value from the user's local storage, that local storage is in the browser, which we would need to use the browser's API to actually access. And we can't do that. Like we don't have access to that inside the component. We would need to perform this using a use effect. So that's kind of how it works in a nutshell. So anything that's outside the component, use a use effect. If you have a button that's just like oh my god, I cannot speak. Incrementing. That's just incrementing a value. Like every time you click on it, you wouldn't want to use a use effect for that because that data is being changed inside the component. So you can have every other way to use that data within the component. Just don't use a use effect for that. It's not whenever anything updates. It's whenever things outside the component update or are provided. So yeah, so let's go ahead and start using a use effect. Now I'll say react.useEffect so I can actually use the function from the React package. And if you don't want to do it this way, you can do comma use effect like this. and that lets you just use the function as is. Same thing with useState. But for me, I prefer to have less clutter up here because I'm only grabbing useState and useEffect from the package. I don't feel like grabbing them. I don't feel like grabbing them out of the curly braces for this one. But everybody's different. Everyone does things their own way. So, do what makes you a happy king. So our useEffect is going to take in 2 parameters. The first parameter is actually an arrow function. So this arrow function is going to have no parameters passed into it. It's just going to be an anonymous function, meaning it'll just execute with nothing passed into it. And it'll have a function block. So we'll say console.log hi, hey, hello. And the second parameter is the dependencies array. Now, if I was to run this like this, oh, well, it's screaming at me because it doesn't like to do this with how module reloading, but there you go. Hi, hey, hello, right? And the reason this ran is because I said that run this when there are no dependencies, meaning this will run only on mount or only on the first initial pass of the execution of useTheme. So, so anytime the component first mounts, if you want to run useEffect, once the component mounts and once everything's painted in the browser, meaning everything has been rendered, then you would do it this way. But if you want to only run this when a specific value changes, like for example is dark mode, then you would pass that value into the dependencies array, and as such, this will only execute, everything inside this function block over here will only execute when anything changes from this value. So I'm going to save this, and I'm actually going to export set as dark mode from here. And back in my navbar, if I add a button over here, whoops, oh my gosh, I thought I had not capsed it, ended up capsing it even more. So I say click me for fun, and then in this button I did an on click handler, and I said and I ran set is dark mode. So I ran the set dark mode setter. So if oh my gosh, if I ran this, and I'm going to run this as the opposite of as dark mode. So what this is saying is when I click this button, I'm going to set as dark mode to the opposite of what it currently is. So, well, it went a little crazy right now, but if I come over here and I click this, you'll see every time I click it, it's running that console log, and it's also updating the dark mode, right? So that's kind of how useEffect works, is whenever anything in the dependencies change that you're listing off, it'll run this. Now, let's say I remove this, and we'll say this only runs on init. Now, I'm just going to clear this. Well, I saved a hook, so I need to actually refresh. There we go. So when I click this, you'll see that it's actually not logging hi, hey, hello, because this only runs the first time it mounts. So, yeah, sorry. I wanted to take this time to explain how useEffect works because I know that it can be a little confusing. It still confuses me sometimes, but I figured it's beneficial to say the least. And there was a specific request that I go over it. So there you go. Now you have maybe a good idea of how useEffect works. If not, then let's go ahead and just finish off this hook, and I hope it'll make more sense after this. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to be going a little bit faster now. So inside of the useEffect, first thing I want to do is I want to grab the root. Why did I do it like that? Const root. I am tripping. So I want to grab the root of the DOM, which is located at the global window object .document element. Okay, and you don't have to do this. I just don't like. I prefer to just declare it as root instead of having to write this a bunch of times. Whoops. So I set my root, and then what I want to do is whenever this useEffect runs, I want to remove the classes from the root element. So that means this HTML tag, whenever, oops, whenever the use effect runs, I want it to just clear out whatever's in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear out light and dark. Okay. Right now there's nothing in there, so this isn't going to do anything. All right. It will do something in a second. Now what we want to do is, once we remove this, we're going to go back to root classless, and we're going to add a class. Now the class that we're going to add is depending on whether is dark mode is true. So if is dark mode is true, then we want to add the class dark. Otherwise, we want to add the class light. Last thing we want to do is, after we have changed the class, we want to set our local storage. Now remember, this is a side effect. This is something that's using the browser's API. So this is why we need to use useEffect. So what we want to do is, once we change the class, we want to update the local storage. We want to set the item in local storage. Now, what do we want? Which item do we want to set? Well, we're going to pass in a storage key. So we haven't defined this yet. I'm just going to go ahead and define it here. I'm going to define it in the parameters because I don't want to hard code it in the function body, in the function block. And this way, like, if you have like other like theme setters or something later on, then you can actually override this value. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to say storage key. So this is the value that you pass into the parameters, and we're going to initialize it as Vite UI theme, right? So we're going to set our local storage key, which is Vite UI theme, to is dark mode. But this is a Boolean. We need to set it to the string version of this Boolean, which we will do by typing dot to string function call. And this will set Vite UI theme to whatever is dark is. We want to make sure this isn't running every time it mounts. We want to make sure this runs when anything changes with is dark mode. So if is dark mode, this will run. And the other thing we want to do is when the storage key changes. So once the storage key sets, that's when we want to run this. If the storage key is deleted, we want to run this. If the storage key changes, we want to run this, so forth and so on, because this is a dependency. So now that we have this working, let's go ahead and save that. And now if I go back to my navbar and if I click on the button, you'll see it says, when I click me for fun, it is switching back and forth from dark to light. All right. And if we refresh, it starts at light mode, which is not desired behavior. We want it to use the local storage value on init. And the way we're going to do that is we need to run a function inside of our useState method. So what we're going to do is we're going to run an anonymous function that takes in no parameters. And we're going to say, so instead of initializing this as false, we're initializing this as the result of this function. So in this function, we're going to say, I wonder if I could have run this as an inline, but I don't really want to right now. So I'll just do, so all this function is going to do is it's going to return. I'm pretty sure I could do this without the curly braces and the return, but I don't want to. So I'm just going to do it this way. So it's going to return local storage.get item. So it's going to get the storage key from the local storage. Now this is screaming, and that's because if you see over here, it says type of string or null, because there's a chance that this key does not exist in the local storage. So what we need to do is we need to actually say, first, does this even exist? So if this is not null or undefined, then we want to return the, I'm just copying and pasting this, we want to return the get item if it's equal to true. If it's not equal to true, if it's not equal to the string true, then, well, you know what I'm going to do here? Then I'm going to say, we're going to check the global window object to whether match media of whether the value that is set at the window object of geez, I cannot type. Where's my parentheses? There it is. Prefers color scheme dark. So what this is saying is this is a setting in your browser. So it's saying that if this matches, meaning if this is true, so matches. So if this returns as true, or not if this returns as true, but this is just like the last else. So what this means is first it's going to check, does the storage key exist? If the storage key exists, then return the storage key if it's equal to true. And this is actually a double thing, because what this is saying that if it's equal to true, then true, otherwise false, right? But we don't need to write all this, because if this is false, then it'll be equal to this. If this is true, if the storage key is set to true, then this will be returned as true. So this is just a shorthand way of writing that logic. So what we're saying is if the storage key is defined, then return the value of the storage key. Otherwise, return the user's browser settings. So when I hit save, I think I have the value set in my local storage. So if I click on that, it starts it off as blue. If I hard reload, so right click, empty cache, hard reload, it used my local storage, and or actually, yeah, that's just the cache. I don't think that clears the local storage, so it still returns it as dark mode because my local storage is defined using dark mode. So I think that's almost it. Oh, there is one last thing. So the last thing is we want to shorten set as dark mode. I don't want to return the set statement. Instead, I want to return just a function that you run that will then run set is dark mode to the opposite of is dark mode. Okay. And that way, instead of having to do this, instead of having to do that nonsense, what we can do is we can just run toggle dark mode, which I already did that here. We save that. It's going to scream. So we'll say toggle dark mode, and now I can just do that. If I hit save, there we go. We have our dark mode theme setter, and we have our dark mode theme variable. Okay, so now let's start speed running through the process of implementing dark mode. So back in the Navbar, I'm actually not going to make the Navbar blue, believe it or not, because that looks disgusting. So we're going to say the dark mode is going to be, we're going to give it the background of zinc 900. So we save. Ooh, look at that. And what I also want to do is I want to give this a border when it's dark mode, because this border is going to be like pure white, and it's a little jarring, super high contrast. So I want to darken it up when the dark mode is enabled. So we'll say dark, and we'll give it a border of zinc. This is going to be a lighter zinc, so we'll say 700. There we go. So we'll save that. And now I want to also go and change the colors of all these links. So the first link, we're just going to change it to dark text white. There we go. So look at that. I also want to change the color of the YouTube icon and the GitHub icon. So what I'm going to do here, next to the text gray, I'm going to say when it's dark mode, the text is going to be white. There you go. Because this is an SVG, we use text. And I'm just going to copy that and paste it down here. Sweet. So now the GitHub link is white as well. I'm also, there's this weird thing where when when you have like dark mode enabled, it doesn't, even if you don't change the color of the hover, it doesn't like carry over to dark mode. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy pasta that and then add dark in front of it like so. And I'm going to do the same thing with this, the GitHub one. So we paste that there. And because I'm using in this repository, I'm using a certain extension that automatically will correct the order. I don't know why it keeps showing me that. It'll automatically correct the ordering of the class names. So when I save, it'll put them in the right spot. So there we go. So now when I hover over YouTube and I hover over GitHub, those change correctly. So we also want to get rid of this button over here and replace it with an actual like nice looking toggler. And I'm going to do this in a separate component because of cleanliness reasons. I don't like it when all the components are in each other's faces. So this component is only going to be used by the Navbar, so that's why I'm defining it in the same file. So we're just going to call this the ThemeToggler. And this one is actually going to need access to the useTheme hook. I don't need it in the Navbar since I'm doing it this way. So I'm going to hit Control X for that. I can get rid of this console log. Don't need that anymore. And over here, Control paste that. Control paste. Control V, which is paste. And we're going to return, oh, hello. We're going to return a button that's going to have a class of height 10. What am I doing? Okay, this is easier to do when I just have the class names like that. There we go. So click me. And in the class names, I'm going to add, give a height 10, give it width of 10. I'm going to say this is going to have a padding of 2, gray text, 800. When we hover, I'm going to give it an amber color. So text, amber, 500. That sounds like a commercial. And when it's dark mode, the text is going to be white. And when it's dark mode, the hover on the text is going to be amber 400, so a lighter amber color. So we save that, and it's going to scream at me because I am trying to use this toggle dark mode where I shouldn't. So I'm just going to remove that, and I'm actually going to put this button in front of these 2 anchor tags. Whoa. Open that. There we go. Save that. And, well, that looks hideous. I actually want to add icons here, not text. So the icons that I'm going to grab are, oh, and this, I didn't even set it to do anything. So let's go ahead and first add the icons, then I'll add the function. So we'll say that when it's dark mode, we're going to use the hero icon mini moon logo, which is not auto-completing. I'm just going to copy this, paste, and this is high mini moon. High is hero icon. I'm going to paste that and also do high mini sun. And this is going to be from the package React Icons high, which has already been, what's the word I'm looking for? Installed. It's already been installed because it's in the package JSON, so you don't need to worry about this. So I'm going to copy that. So we're going to return 2 icons. So if it's dark mode, it's going to be the moon. Otherwise, it's going to be the sun, right? And I'm getting errors. Cannot be used to types Boolean. What? Oh my God, I forgot the question mark. Okay, there we go. So it's still screaming at me for some reason. I don't know what the issue is now. Oh, it's not Hero Icons 1, it's Hero Icons 2. Sorry. I've made that error before because there's 2 hero icons. So there you go. Wow, look at that. It's a moon, and it does nothing because we don't have it responding to any clicks. So the same way we had the on click above, now we're going to have the on click here. So on click, I'm going to make this a one-time function because I'm pretty sure it will just keep running otherwise. So we save, and now it's doing a whole lot of nothing. Why are you doing nothing? Oh, you're doing nothing because I didn't tell you to do thing. Look at that. Okay, so when you click on it, see it changes the icon too. I do want the icon to be a little bit easier to read, so I'm going to give class name of width full, which is just with a width class of 100, and height full. Cool. It's a little bit, you can't really see it on this. Yeah, there you go. It's on the moon, that's why. So we'll copy paste that onto the sun, save, and there we go. We have our theme toggler and our navbar super spiffied up. So now that we got the dark mode toggling working, let's go ahead and implement dark mode across the rest of the app. So we'll start with the top level layout component. And for this one, I am just going to add a background color. So when it's light mode, it's white. And when it's dark mode, the background will be Zinc 900. So there we go. The next one is going to be the container. And for the container, what we're going to do is we're going to change the border up here to be Zinc of 700. Then we're going to give the header over here a text of white. And lastly, we're going to give the paragraph, in dark mode, of course, text of 400. Cool. The next one we want to do is the section. So let's head over to the section. And over here, let's just update the second header right over there with white text. And then for the paragraph, we're going to do the same thing that we did in the other one. We're going to make it a lighter zinc color of 400. And then for that preview box at the bottom, we're just going to change up that border. Isn't really nice, so we're going to get rid of it, or we're going to make it darker, I should say. And I'm going to give it a transparent background as well. So we save that, and it's looking a lot nicer already. So those are our layout components for the site, but we also have some theming that we need to add to our components from our component library as well. So I'm going to start with the hardest one. Well, not hardest, it just has the most amount of work. It's the button component. And for the button component, what we actually need to do is, let me actually head over to the button component. So what we actually need to do is we need to first update our props to take in their dark mode variants. And it's really just the secondary color and the tertiary color. So over here, I'm just going to control click on both of those, hit enter. I'm going to paste in these values. So we're adding in a dark hover text for the tertiary and a dark hover border for the secondary. And then we do need to head to the base classes actually first. And I'm just going to add the dark mode for the ring offset, because right now the ring offset is white to match the light mode. So I'm just going to come over here and paste that there. Save, and now when I tab over to these, you can see the offset is that gray color. So next thing I want to do is I actually need to update the tertiary, the secondary color with a base dark color, and it's the border. So when I save, you'll see that border now looks nice and gray to match the rest of the dark theme. And we're also going to add a dark hover color for these, because like I said before, the hover color, or maybe I didn't say it before, but actually I did, yeah. You have to manually add the dark hover variants, even if they're the same color as the normal light mode hover variants. So there we go. That one's for the secondary, and we'll quickly do the same thing for the tertiary. If I've been pronouncing tertiary wrong this whole time, I'm going to be super embarrassed. So there we go. We added that variable, and we added the default coloring for it. So now I think we can, actually just head over to the other components. I'm going to zoom out real quick, and what I would recommend is, so head to the app. And what I would recommend is just like taking a second, pausing, and copying these in here. So for the amber color in our secondary one, our primaries, we don't need to make any changes, thankfully. So we'll add that for our amber color, or our amber button. We'll add that one for our rows. We'll add this one for our fuchsia. And for our indigo, we'll add that. I can actually, whoop, that's too far zoomed out. I can zoom back in actually like so. Might be a little, yeah, that is easier to read. Okay, so what are we missing? We're missing the Twitter hover. There we go. So I'm going to save those. So there we go. Hover colors for secondary are looking good. And now we need to go in and add the ones for tertiary, because if you hover over these, they're all green. So let's go ahead and add those in. So let's see, we have, yeah, right there. So this one is just amber. We have rose, and you'll notice it's basically just like more of the same. So feel free to just like skip through this if you don't feel like doing the, or yeah, just copy pasta, do what you got to do. It's, you know, annoying, but it is what it is. So there we go, indigo, and the last one is for the Twitter color. Yeah, there we go. All right. Oh, and there are just these two for the destructive colors. Did I add the Twitter one? Yeah, I did. Okay, so the destructive colors are just the hover, text, and border for the secondary and tertiary. So I'm just going to control click on both of these and paste those, save, and there we go. Those are all the buttons. So now let's go ahead and add the ones for the cards. Now, thankfully, these are just in the components since we are not passing in any classes or any color classes from the app. So I just need to change the base color of the card container first. So I'm going to paste this in there. So this is just adding that border color, giving it a dark background, and giving it a dark shadow. So there you go. Ooh, makes it really hard to see the rest of the colors. So now we need to go down into the contents card. And for the contents card, I'm going to grab the dark border and the dark background. And I think I should paste them right over here for the header. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. Let's do the same thing for the paragraph right underneath it. So we're adding in that zinc color. Yeah, so that's for the header. That's why you couldn't see it up here. So that updated that one. Now let's go ahead and update the rest of the card. So for the title, it's going to have a dark white text, dark mode text of white, excuse me. It's going to have a dark mode text of zinc for the subtitle. And then for the plain text, it's going to have a zinc of 400 whenever I can find it. There it is. Cool. And for the link, we need to remember that hover thing that we were talking about in dark mode. So right now it's, yeah, oh, huh. Maybe that hover, that dark hover mode only applies to the buttons. Regardless, we gave it a lighter hover color for the text. So that's cool. Now let's go ahead and change the footer. So the footer, I want to say the colors are going to be almost identical to the header. So there we go. It's really just like mostly just a border. And then for the paragraph, we'll add that dark zinc color. There we go. All right. And now let's head to the inputs. This one's going to be super quick as well. So, oh wait, hold up. I forgot the block link card. Whoopsie. So the block link card is really important. Yeah, so yeah, look at that. It looks terrible. So for this one, we'll give it dark mode text white and dark mode hover background of zinc. Ooh. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Yeah, so now let's go ahead and head back to the input. So in the input, we are going to update the base classes. So just go ahead and add those in there. So that's just the border during in dark mode, as well as the text. It's a little bit more legible like that. And then I think we can just change the text of the label because that looks atrocious. Give it a dark mode, text of white. Yeah, it's starting to look a lot better. And I think, yeah, I think that's it. So there we go. There's our dark mode, fully implemented. Looking really nice if I do say so myself. There you go. Oh, sorry. There you go. We have a little bit of strobe light action. My bad. So yeah, in our next part of this tutorial, we're going to go through the routing. So that's going to give us the multi-page layout that you saw in the early tutorials, and that should wrap up the initial stage of this tutorial. I'm probably going to keep growing this and adding more and more components to it, but I think this is a good start to get you well on your way to making your own component library as well as your showcase for your component library. And so thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something.